the Gaumont Newsreel, presenting the truth to the free peoples of the world.
Admiralty announces British submarines scored further successes. That would be followed by the return to port of a submarine which had been hitting hard at Germany or Italy, like the Sea Lion, which sank an enemy supply ship and then was attacked by enemy surface warships. Depth charges damaged the Sea Lion. Both periscopes were put out of action. After 2 days on the bottom, she repaired the damage and navigated home without periscopes. Like the Sunfish, here in port after torpedoing a supply ship and a tanker. And the Sturgeon, which sank a 10,000-ton Nazi transport with between 3,000 and 4,000 German troops on board. And when they come in after a successful patrol, they fly the Jolly Roger, like this one, whose bag has included a U-boat. Our picture coincides with this of a U-boat crew who were lucky when their craft was sunk. They were taken prisoner and landed at a British Empire port, 36 of them, from the U-93. The newsreel camera is going to take you out on patrol, from the moment of loading the tin fish aboard from the depot ship, which is the parent of all submarines. Over and above providing stores, the depot ship carries out major repairs. They're working on one of the huge pistons. Before patrol, the submarine's captain has a conference with the flotilla captain and the staff officer of operations. Final instructions are received, and the last stores go aboard. Naturally, the last of perishables like vegetables and fruit. The diesel engines which drive the submarine when traveling on the surface are started up, leaving the comparative safety of port for the million dangers of the open sea in wartime. It's something to think about when you feel fed up, when you think the war is tough and restrictions are a nuisance. Think that every day, from some port in some part of the world, men are going out on the most nerve-wracking of all jobs, with discomfort, fatigue, and mortal danger thrown on top for good measure. Soon after leaving port, the sub does the test dive. When the time comes to dive in action, everything must be working dead right. Back in the depot ship, wireless reports are constantly received to be handed on immediately to the staff officer of operations, who keeps the flotilla captain informed. Our sub is nearing a zone where there may be enemy activity. There's the periscope. Even that makes quite a feather to be seen from the air. Everything quiet, so she comes to the surface again where she can use her diesel engine. Precious batteries are used only for running underwater. It's dusk now, and reasonably safe to surface and charge them even in a danger zone. And that's the only time the crew get fresh air. Now the dawn is coming up and the sub prepares to dive again. tanks fill up with water, she begins to slide down stealthily under the waves. Up periscope as she dives. A convoy comes in sight, but it's one of ours. If that had been an enemy, the captain would maneuver into position, working out calculations in split seconds, giving the order to fire. If the enemy ship has no warship escort and is not heavily armed, the submarine will surface and do the job by gunfire. Torpedoes are costly. Only a limited number can be carried. Now the patrol is ended. They may have been out for a few days or a few weeks. Some have even been away from the parent ship for over 3 months. Every minute of every day and night fraught with peril. The captain comes ashore and goes in immediately to report. In this war, the submarines of the Royal Navy have sunk over 300 ships doing the enemy's vital war work, plus over 60 warships. And when they're back at the depot ship, they get tuned up with the first real wash and the odds and ends that make life bearable. They know the ordinary hazards of the sea, plus more than ordinary hazards of mechanical failure, plus the fact that every ship in the enemy's navies and every plane in their air forces is looking for a British submarine. Submariners get extra pay, danger money, and by gum they earn it. Hunting the enemy, keeping watch on hot spots like Kiel and Trondheim. In a job like that, just a spot in the sunshine is the kind of thing millionaires can't buy. Never before in war or peace has any fleet been so continuously at sea as the Royal Navy in this World War #2. For nearly 3 years since September 1939, our big and little ships have carried on the battle of the sea with the barest minimum of time in port. And among the hardest worked of them all are the destroyers. Apart from action, anti-submarine, anti-aircraft, and with surface ships, the business of the sea is hard. We can never give too much praise to the men of the Navy who have served our cause with such devotion. Among the most dangerous of all the areas in which our ships are operating is the Arctic run to Russia. It is in that zone that these pictures were taken, a patrol along that hazardous supply route that we must keep open to sustain the armies of the Soviet Union. The Fleet Air Arm is playing a part in the sea war whose importance cannot be exaggerated. The great need of this period of the war is for more and more aircraft carriers, more and better bombers and fighters for the sailors who fly. Particularly since Japan entered the lists against us, the Navy has taken some savage blows. The ideal to strive for is a Navy that need never send any squadron nor any convoy to sea without overwhelming air support. When we can do that, we shall be well on the way to final victory. It's a healthy and encouraging thing that after 3 years of war, during which we have admittedly gone mostly from defeat to defeat, nearly all our training of the three services is devoted to attack. It's clear that we have abandoned the idea that we can win the war by defense. It's clear that our intention is to wear down the enemy's strength by hitting him where it hurts. This is purely a picture of maneuvers, but it's constant practice that will save thousands of lives in action. By the very nature of these tank landing craft, they're hard to handle, affected by every tide and current and every breath of wind. Only the most highly trained naval crews can keep station with these unwieldy giant barges. In fact, the sub-lieutenant's theme song is "Somebody's Rocking My Dreamboat." Infantry shock troops are the first to land, to form the beginning of a bridgehead. They're followed by tanks, which include Churchills. The advance parties give covering fire for the landing of other troops, guns, and armored fighting vehicles. It's obviously no picnic. But modern army training is based on the knowledge that even in a mechanized age, men of war must be as fit as their ancestors were when they fought with battle axes. The big point of the armored wedge is mostly ashore. Now it's the turn of the lighter armored fighting vehicles, including the ubiquitous Bren carrier. Yes, it's a mighty undertaking, but this empire is big enough and tough enough to carry it through. Further pictures from South Africa. The South African Air Force doing a normal routine job of patrol over the long coastline. It's the same job as the United Nations Air Forces are doing all over the world, but each corner has its individual flavor. Millions of miles have been flown by thousands of planes doing their aerial trick of guard duty. Unspectacular and often dull, but without this constant watch the war would have been over and we wouldn't have won it. Table Mountain rises among the mists, most unmistakable of any landmark in the world. This is an area where not much action has taken place so far, but there's a chance of drama on every single stage, and we're taking no chances. Over to Canada. This crew was bombing Germany in the small hours of the morning one day, and less than 24 hours later arrived in Canada.
We're certainly glad to see so many people here to welcome us. I think it will be a long time before I'll ever see a day like this again. And I hope to go back overseas. And the next time I come back, why, I want to see the job completely finished.
No room for doubt about the kind of welcome they got. Montreal turned out to cheer them, to let them know how proud the Dominion is of the Royal Canadian Air Force. This was the scene of the first Allied offensive action against the Japanese in the Pacific. Warships, aircraft carriers, and transports with full air protection, setting out to retake the Southeast Solomons, the Tulagi area. In the landing craft, marines and equipment, This operation was carried out as a complete surprise, opening up with a bombardment. Like nearly all naval actions, it all looks a bit vague and distant, but there's nothing vague where those shells are landing. The Marines go ashore to overcome what remains of resistance, to turn out the Japanese from the island they conquered so recently. This was a Japanese camp. It has now become a stronghold of American Marines from which they can clear the islands completely. The stars and stripes go up in place of the rising sun. That's cause for congratulations. In the early days of the war, many young American airmen came to Britain with the conviction that our cause was worth fighting for. They joined the Royal Air Force and flew with fighter commanders the Eagle Squadron when our need of fighters was very great indeed. Now the Eagle Squadrons are leaving the RAF to fly with their own countrymen in the U.S. Army Air Forces. Air Marshal Sholto Douglas, commanding Fighter Command, attended this farewell parade with the American Generals Sparks and Hunter. We in Britain will always keep for these Eagle Squadrons a special place in memory. They have shot down scores of enemy planes, and many of their earliest comrades gave their lives in our battles. They came to join us in our days of desperate resistance. They leave us as our offensive gathers weight to help us finish the job. Whatever blunders we may have made in this war, they cannot compare with Hitler's. For what catastrophes have we suffered compared with the German setback on the entry of the Soviet Union into the war against Hitler and the entry of the United States of America? This newsreel is a small indication of the weight of the American offensive. It is the faithful record of a daylight bombing raid by giant flying fortresses, manned by pilots and crews of the American Army Air Forces. The objective is an airframe factory near Albert in France, working under pressure for the German war machine.
As target is of great importance to the enemy in the conduct of the war. If we do a successful job, the progress of the war is going to be improved a very great deal. I know we're going to do a successful job.
The radio men get their signals doped from the Royal Air Force.
Letter and for notes will be used by the leading aircraft.
Side again to watch that operation that never fails to satisfy. Bombing up for the return delivery of the medicine that we have had in full measure. Only Hitler's Germany is getting back a measure brimming over. You'll notice the American ground staff like to write little messages the same as our boys. Wonder what that one is. The Tommy gun sentry is on guard, a wise precaution. Guns are tested before the start. And the crews arrive in jeeps. We've seen this aerodrome scene many times before, with the Royal Air Force Bomber Command playing the leading part. It's good to see that in 1942, there's another great and growing Air Force joining in the smashing of Germany from the sky. No longer are we alone. cameras airborne. Films of the fight over Nazi-occupied territory and of the bombs crashing onto the target were taken by an American sergeant cameraman. We're now above the Europe that is held in the iron grip of the Nazis. Below are the docks of Rotterdam. From the tremendous height at which these great bombers fly, the ground below appears like patchwork. We're nearing the target. The huge bomb doors open. That's the undeniable evidence. America has begun to deliver high explosive where it'll do most good for us and most harm for Hitler. There's a fortress in trouble. He's been hit. But the crew got home safely. With the job done, the crews go to report to the intelligence officers.
After we left the target, dropped our bombs, looked like we did a lot of good, did a hell of a lot of good. Well, we were attacked by either some 190s or 109Es. Three of them in formation, white. They dove down on us and then swooped up under. And West, the ball turret.
Who's West? This boy here?
Yes, he's my ball turret man. He knocked one of them off, at least one, I'm pretty sure.
Well, as near as you could tell, did all the boys get into the target?
Practically all the bombs hit somewhere on the target, and the main bunch of them hit right where they were supposed to.
Would you like to know what that ground staff was talking on the bomb? Yes, it's only the start, but it'll grow and grow. Germany started this war that nobody wanted, but America's Air Force and the RAF are going to have a lot to say about when it'll finish.